Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the 27th Starknet All Core Devs call. And we have a focused agenda today covering O14.0 integration process, Cairo native implementation, and client team updates, and Malachite consensus implementation. So let's get started with our agenda items. First, let's check on with O14.0 integration progress with Leo. So, Leo, in our last call 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that integration began on May 6th, but the environment was still unstable, and you advised teams to hold off on integration work until the following week. So, could you give us an update on the current stability of the integration environment and whether client teams can now begin their integration work?
Yeah, so the stabilization period was just a couple days. So the following week, we already told client teams to work. And so Pathfinder already released that week a pre-release version that syncs correctly on O14. So even other teams can start and started working on integration. Um, Internally, the updates are the chain is pretty stable. There are bug fixes here and there. There is ongoing development of new features, especially regarding transaction status. Um, I think it's bit too early for this forum, but I do think, like in a nutshell, we want to support statuses with more granularity between received and accepted on L2, which correspond to the various phases that the block builder is passing through. So we plan to support those at the feeder. So the decision about that was very recent. So I plan to update the nodes team ASAP and have a version 2 of the release notes ready that describes the changes, but I will discuss all the changes with each team individually. So I think this is the biggest update. Other than that, I think that things look good. So reminder as always that we're deprecating all transactions versions in the upcoming O14, in particular transaction v3. Only transaction v3 sent with RPC 0.8 will be accepted, and all the rest will be rejected at the gateway. So yeah, we have still a bunch of external partners that are upgrading their backend flows to send those transactions. Overall, I think it looks pretty good. So some have already finished. The vast majority of it is ongoing and planned to finish soon. So I think we're in a good place.
Mhm. Okay. And for this transaction status handling proposal which you mentioned, I
Mhm.
remember that you previously said that it was targeted for early June. So does the timeline have changed, or like how does the timeline look like right now?
I think the timeline is around mid-June or slightly after. So I think this is roughly the timeline for testnet.
Okay, okay. So thank you, Leo. And does anyone have any questions about O14.0 integration progress? Okay, so we can move on to the next topic, which is Cairo native implementation. Ariel or Leo, if any one of you can answer, like in the previous call, you guys mentioned that there are plans to add Cairo native flag on the testnet in the coming days or next week. So could you update us on the current status of Cairo native deployment or integration in testnet environments?
Um, like I don't think there is much to update on a steady state in this
Hmm.
code for Cairo native. Like right now we're basically letting it run and monitoring if there are any discrepancies between a VM run and the Cairo native run. Uh, Purpose of that is to gather confidence, and once we have enough of that, then in some way enable native on mainnet. The exact way in which it will be enabled is TBD, but that's the plan in the upcoming, I would say, couple months.
Okay, okay. So thank you for this update. And so I understand that like for the next topic of our agenda, Nathan could not join us today for the staking V2 updates. So we'll be skipping that part. And let's now hear from our client teams about their integration progress. So Christian, could you update us on Pathfinder's readiness for 0.14.0 and maybe include staking V2 as well?
Yeah, sure. So as Leo has mentioned, we have already released a pre-release of Pathfinder that can successfully sync with the integration network. Support for 0.14 is incomplete though. We do lack the compiler upgrade and the blockifier upgrade that would be required for actually deploying new classes and executing new code. So we are effectively waiting on Starkware for the new release, and we'll just bump our blockifier version once that's ready. Independent of this, we are also working on some other features that because of which we can't really do a non-pre-release yet. But I think this is perfectly okay for the integration work with the upcoming Starknet version. So our plan is to just wait for blockifier upgrades and do the compiler upgrade once that's released. And that and also that Leo has mentioned the additional transaction status changes. So that's obviously we are still missing. So that's another thing we'll need to be adding to have full support for the upcoming version. For staking V2, we have just released the new version of our attestation tool yesterday. And we are effectively waiting on a commitment of the attestation contract address on mainnet. And we will likely do a follow-up minor release so that users don't have to hand configure the contract address for the attestation contract before the mainnet upgrade. But that's all what we have right now.
Okay. And how's the progress and how's the progress with Malachite integration going on right now?
It's in progress. I'm probably not the best person to speak of that, but we kind of got to a point where we do have the underlying P2P aspects implemented and can finally just start wiring up Malachite and the consensus state machine with our P2P code.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Christian. And we can go to Rodrigo now. So, Rodrigo, could you share Juno's recent release updates and capabilities, as well as your progress on the consensus implementation?
I didn't understand the first part. Could you repeat, please?
So, could you share Juno's recent release updates and capabilities right now?
Yeah, right now we just make a small release of Juno 0.14.4, which has a couple of small bug fixes, and just that. Regarding consensus, we're aiming for end of June, to have it ready. Our goal is to of course to set up a small test chain of Juno nodes, right? At least four, and then tried that during July. We also had communications with informal systems. They also have like they also have done tests in their way, and they perhaps at that time, which when we are ready, and probably other client teams are ready as well, and maybe we can have a shared testnet.
Okay.
So that's on consensus. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo. And Trantorian, could you give us an update on the integration progress as well as the testing framework development, which you talked about in the last call?
Yes, of
Trantorian?
course.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. Right. So regarding improvements in Madara, we currently now support 0.13.5 block execution. This has been added to our development branch and will be merged into main in the coming days. Regarding the testing framework, this is still in the same state as it was before, which is to say that these changes have been merged into main. Madara now supports running the end-to-end Starknet Hive RPC tests. We still have to fix a few methods on our end, which don't pass these tests, but they have been integrated into Madara. Other than that, we're currently starting work on 0.14.0 method support on the RPC side, and there's also been a lot of contribution by the Carnot team in regards to L3 supports and Bootstrap and Orchestrator developments, and that's kind of the state of where things are. Testing framework is integrated, 0.13.5 is supported, and 0.13.0 is in the works.
Okay, perfect. So thank you all for these updates. And now we can move on to the next part on the agenda. So let's hear from about Malachite consensus and implementation. So Adi, in our last call, you detailed the ongoing investigation into the consensus finalization in the heterogeneous networks, and you mentioned that there are some recent releases with fixes. So could you update us on the recent releases and enhancements and network testing progress?
Sure. The recent releases have a few fixes. I think the most important ones are fixes we've been doing because of a problem in the liveness ensuring protocols or the protocols that guarantee that when a node does not make progress, that node can catch up with other nodes. This is not sync. This is catch up within a round or within a height. So it's not sync, which typically happens catching up across multiple heights that were already decided. So it's a liveness ensuring protocol. We shared all those details with Matan and his team. I think on our side, we finished implementing all the changes. We retracted the old protocol that existed. We are waiting on the Starknet team to adapt the protos because it will require some changes in the Starknet proto files. We did a few other changes. Some of these are not yet released, but some of the changes that I'm describing today have been released in 0.2.0. The other small changes were related to test code. We found a couple of small bugs related to the P2P layer, some quality of life improvements and small bugs in the storage code. Evidence handling, also quality of life. It was like a inefficiency that we fixed. I think that the last two have been released in 0.2.0, which were released, I believe, 2 weeks ago. With respect to tests, that was, I think, the other topic you mentioned. We're doing 2 batteries of tests. One of them is the interoperability tests that I have been reporting for like 2 months. I think we put those on pause for a bit, but then we restarted, I think, last week. And the main focus is it's something we still have not fixed, which is the slowness, what we call unexplained behavior when both the Papyrus and Malachite-based sequencer that we wrote, when they are both acting as proposers, not at the same time, just switching from one to the other, round robin, the block production is significantly slower. And it doesn't have to do with configuration. We ruled out that, and I think we ruled out a couple of other potential causes, but we don't know yet what is it exactly. So we're still in the process of ruling out other causes and figuring out what it is exactly. For interoperability tests, we have a couple of other things we still need to look at. For those, I think we are blocked on supporting the specific changes from the Papyrus framework that we use to generate blocks. So we need to be able to generate non-empty blocks that we have not investigated yet. and we need this needs to be decided with Matan and his team whether it is of interest to also test rotating validator set. Currently, the validator set is fixed, and I think it's not that big either. But when you start to change validators, the network should still continue to function. And this changing validator set has not been fixed, has not been tested either. So to summarize, we're still ruling out potential root causes for the slowness issue. And two things we need to do after this is non-empty blocks and rotating validator set. And so this is the first battery of tests. There's the other battery of tests that are going to be helpful when we're going to have a testnet up and running. This is more about writing the scaffolding to manage the testnet and to generate the workload, to observe the metrics, to introduce perturbations in the network, such as latency or crash nodes or Byzantine nodes. That is going quite well. We actually found a bug in an implementation that is not used for Starknet, but it's an implementation that is used by another user. And the bug has to do with block sync. I think so in the process of writing this testnet framework, we're using it kind of actively to track down other issues, and we did find some stuff. So it's starting to be useful. Yeah, I think that covers everything you wanted.
Yes, yes. So thank you, Adi, for this brief update. And we have covered all the items on our agenda. But before I conclude the call, I see that we have Shahak present today. So, Shahak, we've had some pending questions from previous calls regarding P2P network status, particularly around the support for multiple sequencer architecture, mempool distribution implementation, and chain ID implementation status. So, could you provide a brief update on these topics if you can?
Okay, so could you be a bit specific about the question, which
Okay, so it's around the support for multiple sequencer architecture. So, what has been finalized? And the same for like what are the different progresses that are happening for mempool distribution, chain ID implementation.
So
So
multiple
yeah.
sequencers architecture. We've published the Stalker's sequencer node named Apollo. The protobufs that we're planning to use in consensus. It's on the specs. I saw that Ryan asked some questions on it. And so that's the plan for how multiple sequencers are going to communicate. Um, Regarding chain ID in discovery, I'm a bit what is the word for Niman? Not against and not indifferent on whether it's we need it or not. So if someone if you guys think that you need it, then I'll be okay with like you creating a pull request and I'll approve it and then we'll have it in the specs.
About the mempool distribution.
So mempool distribution, the plan for 1.0, the version after 14, is that Starcore's node will be the only proposer and the other nodes will be the validators that will vote on the blocks that the proposer produced. So we don't plan to have mempool distribution in 1.0, and because you don't need a mempool just to validate transactions. The only reason you need a mempool is to propose them.
Okay. So I mean, like, does anyone have any questions for Shahak or? Okay, no. So thank you, Shahak. And does anyone have any other business that we would like to discuss today? Okay. So I guess we can conclude the call now. And so thank you everyone for your participation today and the updates. So these discussions are valuable as we continue to work towards important milestones. So our next call will be on Thursday, June 5th, 11 a.m. UTC. So if you have any suggestions for the agenda, please reach out to me directly and have a great day, everyone.